Hello, this is Dale Matthews. Welcome to Inside News. And joining us tonight only is Mike Jones. Hello, Mike Jones. Is that your name?
Hey, Dale Matthews. Yeah, it's kind of deja vu here.
It is just a little bit.
Yeah, it's economic development.
It seems like we've done this 445 times. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
In a row.
In a row. Good Lord. What's wrong with this?
What we're going to talk about tonight is the economic crisis that's not an economic crisis, and the fact that economic development funds are being used to bolster county departments. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've mentioned it in the past, but we're revisiting that subject.
I will take your word for it.
Yes. So here's a meeting that happened in the little back room. The commissioners are desperate to get good publicity about their bad ideas. I mean, to make it appear as if they've got lots of great ideas. But it appears as if they're having trouble getting those stories placed even into the media, which has traditionally been sort of on their side or, as part of their publicity crew. That's not working out so well for them. And so here's Simon Hare before he went to jail, talking about what a great idea it would be to use economic development money to shore up the image of the county commissioners. Here we go.
From my perspective, I'm doing this whether the Courier signs up or not. If at the end of the day we get a spot in the Chamber newsletter, or we get it on our website, or we have to publish it ourselves, that's what we control. I don't control the Courier. If they're not receptive, they're not receptive. That doesn't mean I'm not going to make every effort to do it. So they're not the only outlet. I mean, we've just got to work with what we have if they're not receptive. But I'm not going to not do it because they say that they don't want to meet with me, or they don't want to accept my 500 words and they'll accept yours. I'm still going to write my 500 words, and it's going to be on the website or wherever else I can get it. Maybe we buy a billboard. I don't know. Whatever. We'll extend that as an offer. If it's not received, it's not received. I don't know what to do with that. So we could, we could pay. If they don't give us a spot, I'm not exactly excited about that, but those are the things we'll have to address once we talk to them. So.
Okay.
Well, to the degree that the Courier is now somehow resistant to, being the commissioner's office stenographer, I think we should take credit for that, because they must be the only reason why they would do that now is for concerns of credibility going forward, because, we have shown over and over and over and over that these guys are not interested in what's actually going on inside local government. They're only, interested in putting up whatever the commissioners want to hoist a billboard about, like here, it's County Cat Week, as you're saying all the time. So I think we can take credit. That now the Courier, and I'm not sure now that we've had another change, that they don't want to print those kind of stories, and that the county has to pay their own for their own good publicity. Why don't you just do good stuff? Then you'd get good publicity right here.
They're willing to pay to insert happy, fluffy articles about themselves into the Courier. Pay with your money.
Right.
That's
and this, yeah, and this, of course, ties into last night when we were talking about how they take economic development money and give it to county departments, excluding the sheriff. And I guess, is it every other department excluding the sheriff, or is it just some?
Well, they mentioned 4 specific departments, but it's more than that, including one that's not a department at all. Here's what Keith Heck had to say at that famous meeting, Grants Pass grand old party where they invited candidates, but Keith Hick got into a bit of a tussle with practically the entire audience about, well, why don't you spend economic development on things like the sheriff? Here's what he had to say. And you check this out and see if this sounds truthful to you.
Anyone put the money in public safety. We keep
You
hearing,
cannot put that
we keep
money.
hearing you can't have economic
Ma'am,
development if you don't have safety.
You cannot put that money to public safety. That money is bound by the state to go to the economic development. That is lottery money.
And how do you pick winners or losers in that?
I'm not saying that it is a good idea, a bad idea. I'm saying you can't break the law regardless of how great the idea is you think it should go for.
Oh, really? This from the guy that said, I know we're breaking the law and I don't care.
Yeah, but I mean, just on the basis of the fact that they have been giving $20,000 to county departments, and when we're talking about county departments, Dale, what departments are we talking about? It's one, the airport.
The airport. These are the four they mentioned this time. Okay.
Okay.
The airport, the parks, planning, and I'm always missing one. Planning and one more that I can't remember oh, well, they did mention so the fairgrounds. And they also mentioned later in the conversation, even though that's wasn't in their initial list, all of the profits that the library brings into the county.
Okay.
Really?
That's interesting. But so what you saw Keith just say there is in direct conflict. It's in direct conflict with what their policy has been in handing out economic development money to departments in the county. They could just as easily take that money and give it to the sheriff.
If one of the departments, the something department, said we've got this wonderful idea that's going to bring economic development to the county, well, they could still do that. Although I'm not aware that any of them ever have. I mean, why would they in this administration? But they could say, I've got an idea and we need $25, $30, $40, $50,000 on up to it, $100,000. We need that as a gift of economic development money to the Interior Department. But they still get it, although I haven't seen any evidence that they do that, they still get money from the county to the tune of $20,000. It used to be $40,000. Just automatic, $20,000 times at least 4, because, well, of course they're going to come up with something. These aren't even special projects. This is just, oh, well, of course we're going to give you this, no matter what your plans are. It's bolstering that department. And where do you think the money's going? Well, someone needs a vacation. Let's send them off on training and let's give this guy a raise. Well, that's in our budget, as always, J.J. Schofield. It's in our budget. It's a magical budget. Well, one reason it is because they're giving them this extra money instead of giving it to the police. And they have said, as we said many times in this show, well, the reason we're not economically prosperous and people are moving out of the area and they don't want to move here with their new companies is because we don't have economic development, because the sheriff is in trouble. Then give the money to the sheriff.
Right. It's a no-brainer. And you could give, as you were talking about there, when you're giving, say, $20,000 to Department X, and then that department can get, they can requisition, fill out a little form and say, hey, can you please give us more than that?
They do routinely.
And they do give it, but you wouldn't do any of that. You wouldn't. I mean, no sane person would do any of that, since all of this is fluff money that comes to them free of charge for a specific purpose. It comes to them from the state. It's not part of the regular budgets at all. These departments get funded at a certain level out of when they are hashing out the budget. they're not figuring economic development funds into that. This is extra. Okay. So, but they wouldn't do it. No sane person would do any of that if there were actually an emergency that those people in positions of power considered was actually an emergency.
An emergency that's so bad, you need to invoke the power that Cheryl Walker alone has to call the governor down here to take over. That's how bad the emergency is.
Insanity.
That's what it is.
Insanity.
And they expect us to believe this. See, now, you know about this because we've been talking about this. Please, please talk to your neighbors. Tell them what's going on because we do what we can. We really do. I mean, I've been yelling. I yell sometimes on this show, hoping that more people will hear us. But you're the people that are telling people what's going on. It's through word of mouth, the most powerful method that's out there. That's not working for Cheryl Walker, is it?
Well, it isn't. And yet our numbers are growing constantly. Thank you very much for that. It's a great thing that more and more people are listening to it. It means I don't know how much more reach that you have with each one of these people because of the influence that they have on other people, but it has to be, probably 4 times what the numbers read. And some people watch this show in group setting. So
yeah, that's true. Boy, that's amazing. Hello, how are you doing? Hopefully you look good on a big screen. Listen, this just happened out in front of the Ann Basker just the other day, or maybe it would look worse. I would. There's a fellow that's a big fan of the show, and he sees some people walking by. I think that he knows them, at least I hope he does. It's a young guy and his girlfriend, and he says, "You ought to be watching this show with Dale Matthews and Mike Jones, and it's Inside News and all this." And the guy walks up to me and says, "He's just telling me how to watch your show." So I told him a little better. He says, "Oh, we probably should watch that show." I said, "You're younger." I said, "Look around at our hair. Some of us have graying hair. We need younger people also to look at this."
Absolutely.
And the guy says, "I promise you I will go home and I will take a look at this show."
Good deal.
There you go. So please talk to someone that's under the age of 60 and tell them about our show and see.
Yeah, the children are our future.
Well, even though the commissioners occasionally refer to us as children. So here's yet another clip along this same subject. Here we go.
I think that what's been happening is that the counties are using it the way that they feel is most important for their economic welfare. So
That's exactly right.
right. So, and I think that's why there was.
That's exactly right.
That's why the state hasn't really worried about it, because every county has different needs.
Yeah, the state doesn't care.
As far as us using it for a communications type program, I think that's absolutely critical because no one knows about us unless we tell them about it. And I think that is going to be very, very important for us to make that link that it's part of our economic development. And I don't think anybody can argue with that in using
Mike, do you feel like arguing with that?
Yes. No, that's unquestionable.
Man,
Come on.
Insanity. I'm so happy to go ahead,
and
Mike.
in direct conflict with what Keith was saying at that meeting. He was saying we can't do that, it's illegal, blah 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 blah. Well, on December 10th, there you have Cheryl Walker saying we can do whatever we want with this. I think the state recognizes that these different counties have different needs for economic development and blah 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 blah.
And this is
I
essential.
rest my
Tell the
case.
people about what a great job we're doing. Why is it essential? Because 2 of them are running for office. That's why it's essential. Because Simon Hare is in a bunch of trouble. That's why it's essential. That December 10th, does that date sound familiar to you, Mike? December 10th. What happened on December 10th? Let's see. That was the very same day. That was a Thursday.
No, it's not.
Simon went up to Eugene.
Oh, yes. That's right. Yes.
Same night.
And coincidentally, my birthday. So, Simon
really
delivered the future of the county on my birthday. Thank you so much. No, just
here's my solemn question to you. When Keith said, we can't do that, that's illegal, was he telling the truth or was he lying? Mike Jones.
You know what? Maybe he believes that in his mind, but clearly the majority of the board, because you just saw both Simon and Cheryl saying, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah."
What did he say?
Oh yes, we can do whatever. Yeah, I don't know what he said. Perhaps he was in the bathtub again at that point during the meeting. But
legal counsel was with them. Wally Hicks was right there.
Yeah, listen, it's very, very clear, indisputable, okay? Indisputable that the majority of the board, at least the majority of the board, probably all of the board, considers economic development money to be for their use for whatever they want to. Proven, game, set, match, you're done, you're nailed, you're caught, you're lying, it's over.
So what are the two most important issues in our county? Besides this show, that's number 3. The two most important issues in this county are economic development and public safety, according to a lot of people. Economic development money is being thrown away on things like writing happy, fluffy articles about the commissioners so they can get reelected. And the money that could be going to public safety from economic development, as an example, is not going there. So they're putting you in so that they can look better.
Right. And it's going to bolster the salaries of the highest paid people in the county. Okay. Is this a good idea? How do you like it? Do you like it? Are you breaking your back doing whatever it is that you're doing, you know, for work, for sustenance, so that you can make your house payment every month? And the people, the highest paid people in the county, the people that have the best medical and the best retirement, are getting fluff money thrown at them because that's good for economic development. How do you feel about that?
Now, Mike, you made a challenge to all candidates last night, and you said that there's a certain thing that there's a certain thing that all the candidates, and you said, if you don't say this, then you should not be running for office. Do you remember what it was? Because I took it to heart, buddy.
Yeah, I think I did. I think I do. I'll summarize it as I remember it, because I'll tell you what, this stuff is stream of consciousness. It comes right out of my mouth and then it's gone. I don't know.
We've all noticed.
I'm pretty much sure that it's this way. If taking into consideration facts that we know are indeed true at this point, that economic development money is for whatever use the board cares to use it for, and that they are giving it to other departments, excluding the sheriff's department. In the state of an emergency, would it not make sense to take all of that money and give it to the sheriff? That's pretty much it. And if you're not willing to do that, then clearly you're not qualified, or you shouldn't be running. People should not vote for you. That's basically it. If you can't make that basic of an economic decision, that's a real easy decision to make. And if you feel any hindrance on making a decision like that because of friends that you have inside local government, we definitely don't want you, you know. But if you think that that's an easy decision, you may qualify.
Well, one of the things that we've seen, and we're going to go on to more clips, is that there's at least one candidate I know of, I don't need to mention the person's name, who feels that everybody's copying what he has. Oh, they're all copying me. They're all copying me. I've got to only meet with you privately so that they don't copy me anymore. You know, your ideas are nice and they're valuable in that one area, but nobody's trying to copy you. Just, you know, you're too full of yourself if you think that. I'm hoping that people will copy what we say here. I would like them. I would beg them to copy some of the things I say. I want you to. Please, please do. And none of it's...
This is common sense stuff. It really, really is. And if you can't recognize that, then you probably shouldn't be running. Really, I'm hoping that you wouldn't run. Yeah, this is easy stuff. And you're right. I mean, we're throwing this stuff as freebie stuff. And if you discount it based on what people on some web page in the IV or something have to say about this show, then you don't think for yourself very much. Then
what he's talking about is you probably know, we talked about this here, that I put up also on Facebook, besides in the show, some of the data about what the upcoming minimum wages are going to be. And I didn't put any kind of comments on the posting. Here's what the new rules will be for this area and for Portland. Okay, no comments. So somebody out at the IV, and one of the places I posted, says, hey, you should get a life, this is sort of boring, nobody really cares. Nobody really cares in the IV. Nobody cares about minimum wage. And here's the part that got me. And I'm not talking about minimum wage or whatever the reason that you think that I posted this. Dan Mancuso. He's the editor of the newspaper out there, the IV News. He agreed that it's stupid or idiotic or a waste of time, or why don't I get a life, to post what that said without comment. Dan Mancuso. Yeah. Hello, Dan Mancuso.
Yes.
You are the editor of a newspaper. What's the matter with you?
Yes. Right. And there's people on both sides of that who would probably want to know that that the minimum wage is going to be changing. One, employers. So Dan Mancuso doesn't think that the employers in the IV are interested at all, that they're going to have to pay their workers a lot more money.
It's not a story. It's not interesting to him. He doesn't want people to know.
Right. Really? And then also people that are working for minimum wage out there, they're not interested in knowing that they're about to get a big windfall either. And some of them are going to lose their jobs, by the way. That's just me injecting my own opinion in there. But, it is news. And but listen, so
why would the editor of a newspaper
they're bad mouthing you?
Not news. Why would the editor of a newspaper insist that it's not news? It wasn't even colored by anything. There was nothing to it except these are the facts and figures. All kinds of other people on other websites said, oh, thank you. This is really helpful. I imagine some of them are for a minimum wage. Others are against a minimum wage. It's news. Dan Mancuso, I don't think, this is the same guy that said he would not run certain articles because his advertisers wouldn't like them. That's not a newspaper, man. That's an advertiser. Well, it might as well be the sneak preview. What a waste.
Yeah, well,
anyway, that's my personal issue. That's so ridiculous. Gee.
Yeah. Dale's got issues.
Yeah, I do. Okay, speaking of ridiculous, here is more from the little back room about what Arthur O'Hare, the finance director, yet another wonderful finance director, kind of like Jay Meredith over at the city, and not quite as powerful, what he was saying to the county commissioners about the idea that they should increase the amount of money that goes to the departments because, inflation kicks in. Here we go.
So it's not a decision point at this point in time.
Well, the economic development funds coming from the lottery, I noticed just from last year to this year that quarterly payments are a little higher.
They are higher. We're getting about 100,000 a quarter now.
Oh boy,
97,000, 98,000. So we should have about 400,000.
That's nice.
Coming year.
Now,
increasing it from
I'm sorry.
I don't have any problem with it.
Just one moment. Okay. He said he wouldn't have any problem with it. Go ahead, Mike.
And this is notable because now, correct me if I'm wrong on these, because I don't know the numbers exactly, but hasn't it been up to now that we're getting about 300,000, and now
Yes.
this is a bump up to 400,000? So that's
$400,000. That's right.
Yeah, that's a big increase. And how much was it that they were going to pay, or that they were planning to possibly pay for the retired police officers / deputies to work in the public schools? How much were we going to pay?
My memory is that they were going to get 6 of them for under $200,000. 6 of them for, I think, 180.
Yeah, well, that's
and this is important. Run through the sheriff's department. Run through this. Oh, you can't do that because they aren't fully trained. Yeah, they were. But even if some of their training is, are you going to continue any training? And if you're running them through the sheriff's department, it's not like they're working for some private company or something. Our tax dollars would pay for that.
Yeah. So theoretically, we could have 12 of those people just for the economic development money, not any extra money that we shave out of other departments to go over there, like you would do in an emergency, or taking extra money out of the general fund that's just sitting there that you would rather spend on water testing. But since it's an emergency, we're going to give it to the sheriff's department. This is just flat out, no skin off their back. Boom, here's $400,000, 12 people potentially, or maybe you could take 6 people and then you could throw the other couple of 100,000 at the jail and keep some of these people in jail and maybe prosecute some more of these people. Although I thought the state was supposed to be paying for that. So, listen, I believe that these people are completely manipulating the justice system in this county purely for the purpose of extracting funds from the people.
Now, why would you say that, Michael Jones?
Just because everything points to that, for crying out loud. Everything does. And you know what?
There's only one solution. You've got to say goodbye to these people.
Right.
And look at who they're surrounding themselves with. Here, this guy comes in on his own and says, well, I think we ought to give him even more money. We need to say goodbye to department heads. We need to say goodbye to these people who are at-will employees.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, anybody who believes in governing in the exact same way as these people do, they got to go. They really do have to go. And it's, here's the problem, and Dale's alluded to this before, is that when you have your opponent where you want him, do you let him get back up, or do you sink the death blow?
Bite.
So what I'm suggesting is that we're on the cusp of great change led by information and news. And, the more people that can be informed about what's going on, about just what we've done in the last 2 nights, it's clear we've made the case. The jury has gone out and come back and said, yes, they're guilty. They're guilty of lying to us. They're guilty of manipulating the justice system by shorting the sheriff's department money they know that they could put there. They're claiming that it's an emergency when it's not.
And that it's against the law to do anything else.
Right. And that's a complete lie. So we know for a fact this is indisputable here. So let's get on with moving forward. Knowing that information, we can go on forward and replace these people with people that we know understand that this is not only the truth, but how to turn it about 180 degrees. And so we all can learn the truth. And in the next year, after the replacements for these people coming into office, we're going to learn so much.
Oh, brother.
About what has gone on.
And we're going to bring it on this show.
Right. And potentially, potentially things can get better. And that's a difficult thing. I'm 53, so I've seen hope rise and fall many, many times. And so I'm not thinking too, that this is going to be, that we're going to be able to get too much done. But I got to tell you, if you have some people in there that are willing to admit to, not only just willing to admit it, but willing to passionately argue the case for the opposite. And I got to tell you, every single day, this bunch of commissioners proves my point that if they would do exactly the opposite of what their inclination is, we would all be better off for it, because everything they do is a failure. Everything they do is wrong. Everything they do is manipulative.
They have no regard for us. And look, here's something also that applies to you and to us, okay, as the audience. Honestly now, forget about me. If you vote this next time for one person that knows a lot or purports to, what a jerk, talking about myself, and somebody else that has a nice hairdo or seems like really easy to get along with, or I like that person because he'll or she will get along well with Simon Hare, what are you thinking? I mean, if you really want more of the same, there are things that we could do. We're only going to get like 1/5 of that done unless we have two. This one time, if you're voting for someone because they've got some kind of nice commercial website, that's not us, and is trying to promote that, or voting for someone because he's a member of the Rotary Club, or voting for someone because they come out of that goofy church. It's a big church. It's not all goofy, but you know what I mean. The Satan worship church. If you're voting for someone because, well, I like his stand on a single issue.
A little bit of a,
Well, it is a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, all right. But that's what the guy said, and he's the head pastor, is he not?
Yeah, yes, of course, of course. It was a stupid thing, and I got to tell you, that's one of the first questions that I would ask somebody coming out of that church is, what do you think about this? And,
yes.
And if they flip out and they're going to back that guy all the way, you're off. Forget
well, that's what we saw with this Mark Collier guy. Okay. Now, he said a lot of smart things since then, but he absolutely came unglued and said, they never said anything like that. I was there in that room. Buddy, that was their videotape.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
He was not correct about that.
Not correct is one way of putting it. That's right. That's right.
I hope that
that doesn't mean he's all bad. Look, it's important to know the difference between friends of yours, people that you support and that you like, that are a little short on facts, and a deadly enemy. This guy is not that. But
no, you're right.
It's not factual.
Right. And listen,
don't vote wishy-washy this time. Don't vote wishy-washy this time. Don't vote for someone that's on the borderline. That might as well be completely the other direction.
Do not vote for less than what you want from a commissioner. Well, he's got almost all the thing, but I don't like that wart on his nose. Or, I don't like the way that person speaks. Or I don't, that person's not tall enough. Or that person, I like that person because that person's tall. You have
I don't like that guy because he has bad teeth. I'm going to tell you my bad teeth story right now. Okay. I got a bunch of money in because I was cheated by a company back several years ago. And I had the opportunity to spend the money. It was a windfall. I hadn't expected I'd be treated fairly, but I was, finally. I won that case. And so I could buy a terrific car. Oh, boy, I'd look hot driving through town. Oh, chicks are laughing at me. Well, probably. I meant waving at me. Okay. Or I could get all my teeth fixed because I come from an English family way back in the 1600s, and that's one of the legacies I got from them. Or I could do what I did. I spent all the money on buying 8 great cameras. I worked with young people to show them how to use them. Boy, they ran the wheels off of those cameras, and not a single one of them works now. But okay, for years, that's what we had, and we were able to do that. I had a choice. So I deliberately chose not to have wonderful teeth. So if somebody says, well, has he no pride? No, I got something other than that. So, you know, bring it on. That's why I did what I did.
I haven't heard anyone attacking you for that. So,
well, no, they're polite enough not to say it to my face, but I hear the rumors in the background. That's okay.
Okay.
I have that for a reason. It reminds me of that Mel Gibson movie, which is a bad example because Mel Gibson, this is exactly my favorite guy at the moment of things that he said. But he rushed into a building and saved somebody's life and ended up with a partly burned face, and then nobody wanted to look at him.
Yeah.
That background. Why would they know that background? And they just thought of him as, you know, an awful guy because of the way his face looked. That's nice.
I think that's Man Without a Face.
Probably so. So I'm facing up to this myself. Okay, so so here's more of what they said in the little back room. I think you're going to enjoy this.
Since 2011, there's been about a 5% inflationary hit. So $1 in 2011 will be $1.05 in 2014. And I don't have any problem with having some correlation between those two, because that is a sad reality.
To give them more money, it's a sad reality.
You're losing. So if there could be some, I don't know if 25,000 is an accurate representation or not. But.
Well, what I was looking at is it had been 40 and was cut back due to the economic situation because it was declining, the amount, but now it's gone back up. And so
the economic situation is better?
Well, but the same amount of revenue is being dealt with. I mean, they get 20, they want a project for the other 20, and they normally do come up with some projects.
And it's not necessarily limited to 20.
Right.
They can have a 10,000 or a 30,000 or,
Yeah.
But I like the idea of having, you can bank on budget-wise, maybe 20, and if you can apply, you've got a 20 window that you can apply for specific grants that you need to identify in some way.
and I didn't feel that there was necessarily any urgency to make the change, but I did think that over time, now it's been several years, and that over time, if we want to maintain more or less the same level of support that for these programs, that maybe it'd be a good time to increase that.
So and the programs you're talking about are mostly the technology type things with the library, the fairgrounds, parks, airports, all that bring in money. So
right, that's
oh really?
I don't care if they do bring in money.
Library.
Before that economic development money came here, they weren't using it to fund county departments, and now they do. And now they're going to give these county departments a COLA, a cost of living increase.
25%.
25%. Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible.
Now, I know Mike heard this, but did you guys in the audience hear this, where Cheryl said, now that things are doing better economically? Wait a minute. In her letter to the governor, she said that we're in an economic crisis, a fiscal crisis here. But she's saying in the little back room, this is why, do they realize that I'm there? Do they realize that you're sitting right next to me, the whole audience here? She says that things are looking better fiscally. They are?
Yeah. Well, and listen, she may be speaking generically in terms of the economic conditions in the state or the nation.
Or maybe Greece. Yeah, sure.
Right. Well, I mean, just by virtue of the fact that I guess more people are playing the lottery, but that wouldn't necessarily indicate a better economy. Maybe people are so desperate that they're even taking more of their money to buy lottery tickets because there seems to be no hope. That's a possibility.
Where's the majority of people? We know this fact, and you probably know it intuitively. All of you do. What county puts the majority of the money of their discretionary income, I guess you can say, or even the rent money, into buying lottery tickets? What county of all the counties in Oregon spends more money on that than any other?
I don't know. Is it here?
Yes, Josephine County. Now, why would that be the case? in the county that's doing arguably the worst of all the counties, except maybe for Curry.
Well, I mean, you're talking a per capita thing, right?
Yeah, right. And so there's this direct, per capita. There's this direct correlation between people who are financially desperate and gambling, literally gambling on all kinds of things, but also on the lottery. So we're getting back part of that money, which is good. I mean, it's nice to get part of it back, just part. Obviously, the state doesn't want us to run their own gambling. Why don't we have a casino? Oh, no, we'll never allow that. Yeah, right. Well, we should all become Native Americans of some kind. Okay, so that we can run our own lottery here, but our own casino.
I am a Native American. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you haven't been here for 1,000 years like one of the commissioner candidates.
Neither have any of the others.
Yeah. So I've been here for 10,000 years. Yeah.
Whatever.
So, okay, back to that little meeting. She just said that things were looking better.
That was the whole point behind their support, is that they do contribute to the economy, planning included, so that the additional support, helps offset the costs of providing those services to the public. So.
Providing those services to the public.
Yes, and I'm sure the public feels well served by that extra money. I think they might feel more well served, and actually, we really shouldn't care whether they feel that they're more well served. We should be making sure that they are better served, because listen, there are only a couple of obligations that the county would have, as I see it. One is revenue generation, so you got to have your property tax system in place. But that takes a second to public safety, law enforcement. So, have you gotten the point now that I think it's a better idea to take this money and put it toward law enforcement, and that
put
it's
it in an emergency fund,
can be done
along with the emergency road funds. Put them all into the same emergency fund. It's not just road funds, and you put them all in there, okay? And then when the sheriff has an urgent need for road patrols, has to be road patrols now, can't be bureaucracy, or Rob Brandis over at Public Works has an urgent need for that's in the same emergency fund. And then they have to come in front of the commissioners and in front of you, not in the little back room, and say, here's what I need the money for. And they need to agree on it, because emergency road striping in this county is just as important as protecting the lives of people.
Right. Apparently. But what you're talking about is road dollars. These dollars here, I don't think should be in that fund.
No. Absolutely.
I think that these dollars here should be completely discretionary to whoever it is that receives them. And in this particular case, the sheriff. But I believe in my heart of hearts that the sheriff is a bureaucrat. And I believe that the sheriff, I don't believe him, because when it's time to campaign for a levy, that guy will say anything. That guy will do anything, and draw in press conferences and say whatever he needs to say to get a levy passed. So I don't trust that guy. So I think, in addition to giving him this money, you also start to need to watch these expenditures to make sure they're being spent exactly the way that they say that they're going to do.
Now, why would Mike say this? Because we saw the facts. Of course, he got up in front of the press, deliberately said, well, what we've been saying on the show is completely wrong. That was a little bit of a mistake. And as proof, he showed a chart that had, as an example, from 2011 to 2012, that it grew 300%, the crimes, okay? Because the crime in the first one, a major crime, was 2, not 2%, not 2,000, 2. 2 crimes, major crimes. Right. In the next year, 2012, it was 6. The difference between 2 and 6, we're not talking about the difference between 2,000 and 6,000. Between 2 and 6 is literally 300%. But that's a manipulation of the facts. Sheriff, we said that to him. This is not being honest.
Yeah. And the problem is that right now they are very, very close to making massive mistakes by falsifying documents to show a crime statistics that are not true. They told us in the meeting last year where they were trying to rationalize that somehow reported crimes were up 850%. Well, that sounds great as a statistic without any background information that says, well, 8 crimes took place in this particular month and the next month nothing happened or whatever. If you compare those two to one another, one month has 800% more crime than the other one does, which sounds really, really scary. But
it's so false. It borders on just flat out lying. And don't forget that they said 850%, and then just recently, it was only a few days ago, Cheryl Walker said 500%. Wait a minute.
Yeah, and she said over 3 years. So we have 2 of those years in the books. We know that there was no increase in crime over this. So she says 300 or 500% over 3 years. Well, that 3 years, that takes us back to 13. Well, now we have 13 numbers, and we have 14.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What are we going to do when they're falsifying everything? For example, we'd heard at the budget meetings during that period of time there was $8 million in the roads fund. And then just a couple of months later, we heard there's $6 million in the roads fund. And then a couple of months later, we heard there's $4 million in the roads fund. We just heard recently there's $2 million in the roads fund. And here's what Cheryl Walker said at a meeting. She says, don't forget that slide out in Galice. Yeah. And we had to go back. And it looks like that's going to cost us $1 million for that slide. The only problem is that she then followed that up just this last week by saying, well, that could cost us $150,000. Now, I would put it to you, the audience. If she said it could cost $1 million and it could cost $150,000, something's wrong with the numbers. They're not being careful at all. They just don't care.
And I don't even think, I don't trust these guys about anything.
No,
I don't know that they're giving us, good or valuable information about what it costs to do anything. I don't know what they're.
We toss them out.
Right, exactly. We don't know what they're padding that with. We don't know if they're padding it, but because of their past behavior, I have to speculate that indeed they are padding it. And they'll take a little bit more money and spend it on something else that they want to do. These people cannot be trusted, and I think that Cheryl is especially evil. I believe that she doesn't have any conscience about this whatsoever. She wants to obtain her objective, and she doesn't care what she does, and it's by any means necessary. And to her, that is morality. So this is the type of person that we're dealing with here.
Well, I'm disappointed that we have to put up with this, but we're going to have to watch these guys. We really do need to watch these guys. Now, I hope I have this to the proper space because I accidentally just touched it, and I may have not got it in the proper place. But here's a little back room with Nate Gowieran from Corrections talking about the idea that because he's gotten a hit from Title III funds, whatever that means, it doesn't matter, that he may not be able to supply free labor to the departments. Now, this is through public safety, free labor. And I hope I have this correct, but you might just need to sit for a second while we hear what they have to say. It might not be queued up correctly. Here we go.
Okay.
These are departments that are hanging by a thread, and they rely on this to not have to buy outside or to do these things. It means the difference between the fairgrounds making it or not.
Now, wait a minute. What was that?
you know,
you say about the fairgrounds, Mike?
It could make the difference between. Listen, I mean, here before we get to that, he was talking. This could make the difference between the fairgrounds making it or not, and that just should be ludicrous because they're supposed to be making it on their own. You know, but they're getting handouts from economic development funds. Okay, these departments are getting free money from economic development funds. Now they're getting free labor. What else are they getting? You know, for crying out loud, these people who've got the easiest go of it are getting all of this, and it all comes from you, or, you know, this money is an entitlement being paid out to us because we have allowed them to use our county as a place to pilfer, you know, gambling dollars from for the purpose of using the state. So that money belongs to us, and they're wasting it. And then there's this Title III money, another one of these little shoestrings that comes in. As you can see, the murderers have arrived at my house. The dogs are barking like crazy. And so, yet again, there's more of this fluff, more of this slush fund, you know, pushing the stuff around. I'm not saying that it isn't good for you know, prisoners to find some work to do, you know, because I think work is a very good therapy for people who are in need of making a change in the way that they live their lives. And you know,
but what did Simon just say?
Yeah, Simon just said that. Well, if we don't get these Title III funds and we can't use that free labor that you're giving to us, then that will make the difference between the fairgrounds making it or not. If that's the case, then shut the fairgrounds down.
Absolutely. Sorry.
Okay.
I like a fairgrounds too, but that's ridiculous. Yeah. You're not supposed to be supporting them. And
take whatever money you were giving to the fairgrounds and give it to the sheriff.
Yes,
it's
please.
Emergency.
You're not asking the sheriff to come down and take over the fairgrounds. You're asking her to come down and take over public safety and every other thing here. We're not just ranting and raving. We're playing you the facts of what they're saying. Look, here's another thing that was said. We're almost out of time, but I got to play for you this little sequence because this is classic. Here's what happened on the meeting where Cheryl Walker had a bit of a tussle with Simon Hare. Here's what she had to say.
And when the eruption occurred, I asked the board, shall I adjourn? You said no.
No, you did never ask me.
I turned and I said, shall I adjourn?
No.
Well, I did ask the people.
Well, I didn't respond.
So the next thing I did is that I asked the people to be quiet or no one would speak and raise no objection.
Now, she did not ask him. We were there. She did not ask him. So there she is lying to Simon Hare. This is indisputable. I mean, it's not just two guys ranting in the middle of the night. This is indisputable. Here's then what she said on Thursday in the little back room. She's still talking about it. Here's what she said to Dick.
Okay, do you have any other matters you need to have brought forward?
Do you want to discuss this one, or is this just for
information?
Okay.
And the person most concerned is not here, so
okay.
I just any time that there is a statement made that is not accurate, and the results that came from it, the fallout from that, needs to be addressed.
I agree.
Okay. That's not.
I agree with Cheryl.
Yeah, she's not talking about when she makes false statements.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I misinterpreted.
Her, and I tried to get this document. Imagine trying to ask for a document that they're not identifying. But once they share it, it's public information. I want to know what it is that she had to say about Simon Hare before they deep six this. And they're sharing these documents outside of the view of the public. What do you think about that? I'm there, but they don't want to talk about what's in that document.
You know what's funny is that, you know, I've been around long enough and been watching politics enough to know that when a politician makes the statement, "We're the most transparent in history," or something along those lines, they usually, or "We're the most, economically responsible in history." Whenever you hear that from a politician, grab your wallet and start looking into the details, because it's a complete lie. Now, we just had Hillary Clinton over the weekend just said she is probably the most transparent politician in modern history. Or maybe it was in history until, and I thought to me, the immediate thing that occurred to me was, Simon Harris is going to have a problem with that, because he just got done saying that the government in this county is the most transparent in the world.
Okay,
so,
I got one more clip to play for you.
Here, hang on a second.
Go
The bottom line is, so transparency, we need more of that. Actual transparency. And if you're running and you're going to say that you're transparent, you're just better off not doing that, because that just sends my hackles up when somebody says that.
At least one candidate who would be the opposite of transparent. It's hard to believe that this person would be less transparent than everybody else on this board, but I think so. So one last little thing. This is just a little extra footnote for fun. When you're in front of the county courthouse, up above the columns, it says the year 1916. This is the year 2016, in case you guys didn't know. Newsflash, right? And so one would think, gee, wouldn't it be a shame if we couldn't have some kind of acknowledgement of the fact that it's been 100 years since that was built? That's apparently not going to happen now. And here's what they have to say about it.
Okay, a while back we approved resolution number 2015-025 for the courthouse 100-year celebration. And I have been trying to get a committee to work on this. I've only had 2 people that are willing to do anything. It's becoming onerous, and I would like to just discontinue it, not have it. And so I think we need a motion to discontinue the resolution. Yeah. So, yeah, it has become, one individual who wanted to volunteer has not attended meetings and not responded, and it has just become too much. So
it might be something to tie, and I would take care of business one. Did you need a motion to dismiss it?
Well, probably ought to have a resolution to rescind it, maybe.
Yeah, we have to have a motion to rescind the resolution.
Yeah, we would have to have a motion that rescinded that resolution.
Because we do rescind motion.
Resolution 2015-025.
2015-025.
And I second the motion.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
So
okay, so that was it. The hearing about it, the discussion, and the vote.
They adopted this resolution in the little back room with no public input. They rescinded the resolution in the little back room with no public input. This is the way they take votes. They say they don't, but you just saw that this is what they do. And the reason why is there's nobody that wants to get together with these 2 commissioners and celebrate 100 years of this kind of stuff. Nobody's interested. It's 100 years. They don't want to be associated with these guys. It's boring. It's stupid. They don't want to even have anything to do with them. Gee, that's too bad. Being a history buff, I think that's too bad. I can totally understand. I would have stepped forward if I thought that it was anyone other than these guys. I don't want to have anything to do with them. They've lied to us. They're about to turn the county over to the governor. And Keith Eck is going to be part of this because he's not going to say anything. Right. Or if he does, it's going to be weak. He needs to send a letter to the governor saying, don't do this. I am a commissioner. Don't do it. Hell no. Don't do it. He's not going to do that. So, yeah, well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Once we hit our 100 years, we'll let you know.